Good morning, I'm Paul Brodie. We're back in the shop. Mitch behind the cameras, and thank you, Mitch. And we're back on the big bore motor, and I got some parts out of Germany. I got the straight cut gears, and you can see the difference here. This is the stock gear. It's a helical gear, and you can see that it's much wider. You can also see that this is a smaller gear because it changes the ratio. This is a 2.5 to 1, and this is 2.09 to 1. So it changes the internal ratios of the transmission and things like that. So this is a lot lighter. This piece here goes on like that. I got the special screws to hold it in place. That's what holds the clutch hub. And you can see the other gears. There's the pinion shaft, oil pump, and so on, and the cam. So it was great to get that. All of the cool parts are held up somewhere in the postal strike. So that's the race piston, the liner, the oversized valves, the cam. It's all somewhere out there. I don't know where it is, in a warehouse waiting, so I hope that shows up soon. Okay, so what's happening here, we're working on the flywheels, and this is what I have to modify this so that it looks like so, because I don't need a tack drive out here. So I have to cut that off. And in the last video we did on the big bore, I heated this up and I put it in line, but that didn't work because this was still hard because this cooled down. This is a big heat sink here. So this cooled down too fast and it got hard again. So what I did, you can see from the photo, I made up a heat sink and I put it on like that. And I got a hose clamp. You see how there's a split? And that held it on, and then I heated this up until it was a dull red. You'll see in the photo, and this was a much hotter red, a cherry red. That's what I would call it, a dull red and a cherry red. And that worked, and that because it cooled down a lot slower. It was in the lime, and then I was out in the shop yesterday, and I made up a tool. This is a threading tool, and I ground it away, and I've got a diamond wheel outside. Thank you, Harvey Barton. So I sharpened it up, and I checked it in the lathe. I machined the center, so I know that it's going to work. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go outside. We're going to use a cut-off wheel. We're going to cut the end off, and then it'll go into the lathe. And I'll face it, and I'll recut the center. Thanks for joining us. Let's go outside and use the cut-off wheel. It's still pretty hard, but it's cutting fine though, with a carbide tool bit. I've changed the compound to 30 degrees, and so I don't use this so much as this, because this is going to cut a new center. That's what we're doing. We have to cut a new center. Okay, that's good. What we're going to do now is to work on the left side crankcase. add a piece of aluminum in the top to fill up the hole. So we'll go back to the bench and I'll show you that. What's going to happen next is that I've done this side of the flywheels. This is the pinion shaft. This is the sprocket shaft. This is the left side, and I need to make it, this has to look like so. What I'm going to do is to use the heat sink. I have to bore it out. I'll put a spacer in there. I'll bore it out, and then I'm going to clamp it onto here. And then I'm going to heat up the heat sink and heat up the whole shaft, and it'll go into lime because I know that works now. So this is going to look like so. Pretty exciting. Okay, now we'll get on to the crankcase. All right, that's the case I did back in 2002 about. And you can see the modifications here. So I've done this, I've done that, and I've plugged up the shifter shaft. So I have to make this now. So I'm going to make this out of this piece here, like that. So we're going to work in the mill. I'm going to use an end mill. I'm going to cut out all this. It's going to go right down to the surface, right there. And then this is what it has to look like, because there's a hole there, a threaded hole, 6mm hole, that holds on the case. And then this is the hole for the access to the Allen screw. There's an Allen screw that goes in there. So I need to match up that hole as well. So we got quite a bit of milling to do. So, oh, and also, now that we're here, I made this piece here because that's going to hold the vape ignition system. I'll figure that thing out eventually. So it bolts on, and the ignition system can go right on to that. So that should be good. So that's another thing I did. And I have to face this off because that's just the casting. It needs to mate well. I got the Prattley glue. It came from South Africa. I bought piles of it and I sold some, and this is all that's left now. I got a couple tubes, so I need to go back on eBay and find some more Prattley steel. All right, so we'll go to the mill. I'll choose an end mill and we'll do some cutting. I'm almost down to a flat surface, so I got a little bit more to come off, maybe 25 thou. I just want this to be flat because when I glue, I need an even surface. So we'll just take off a little bit more here. You can hear the bump there. So not much. This will be the final cut. You can see what's happened here, and this is too long, so I need to measure this, and I need to make this shorter, and I think I'm going to make it about I've been thinking about this, maybe 5 or 6 thou less, because we have to allow for the room for glue. So I'm just estimating. So what I'll do is I'll use my digital calipers. The size doesn't matter because I'm going to zero it out, and then this has to be 5 or 6 thou less. So we'll go over to the mill now and do some more milling. Milling time. Got 5 thou smaller, so that'll be okay. There we go, it fits. So I need to knock it down a little bit more. So I'm going to take a skim off the top, and then I'm going to put the side case on, and I have to mark this hole. Well, no, I don't have to mark. I have to mark this hole because then I know where the rib goes. If you look at the photo again, there's a rib that comes down here under the hole. So that's why I need to know where the hole is. So I'm going to measure up here, and then I'm going to take off a cut and leave a little bit on there, because after this everything needs to be skimmed just a little bit. That fits in like that. That looks okay. And then I have to put on the case, and then I'll actually mark it. So you can see here, I got 3 holes that I can use to set it up. 1, 2, 3. And these 2, one there and one there. So this one's fine, because I know I got it in the middle. And one here. So I'm marking this. And then I'm going to mark where the hole is. So I'll use a scriber for that. I did this back in 2002, 2003, I can't remember. And I also can't remember exactly what I did, because it was a one-off. And after all those years, and my memory isn't perfect. Okay, so that's where the hole is. This is where the rib's going to go, like that. And I got the protractor part of the combination set, and I'm going to make a couple angles. So maybe 2 degrees. How about 2 degrees? I bought this when I was 18, started in a machine shop. So I have had this a lot of years. It's English, it's more than right, but it's good. Oh, I need more than 2 degrees, I think. Let's go for 3. Okay, we'll come back this way. There we go. It could even be more. And then what I also need to do, because this is going to get milled out next, going to follow that line. This one can be a straight line, but this one here, I noticed what I did last time. I followed the curve, so I guess I better do the same this time. So it's going to make it a little bit harder in the milling machine, because now I've got an angle and I got a curve. And this one is just straight across like that. And there's a radius in there. You can use a 5/8 end mill, a ball end mill, into the corners, so then I get a nice radius at the bottom. 5/16 radius. So I think we'll go over to the mill. That's the word I want, the milling machine. All right, we've done this side here. I left a step in there, a couple steps, because there's going to be a ball end mill that goes in there. So far so good. I'm switching end mills now. I'm going to put in the ball end mill, 5/8. I'll show you that. That's the ball end mill. See how it's got a nice nose on it? 5/16 radius on a 5/8 ball end mill. So we'll see how that works out. I'm going to have to do a little hand sanding. I'm going to use a spiral roll in here. I thought about that last night. I've done the taper, so now I set the vise back to being at a right angle, and then I can mill that top bit right there. I have to match the corner now. Okay, so this side is done. Looks okay. And we're going to move the vise now so we can do this angle here. So that's what we ended up with. Oops, we've got a little bit of a, it's not perfect, but that's just by hand, using both hands. So I'm going to smooth it out, and then we'll cut it to shape. We'll bond it in, and then we'll drill a couple holes. We're on track. I can do more sanding later. Okay, so we have to cut out the shape now. It'll be cut on the bandsaw, and then this one has to come down as well. So I think we'll do something like that. And I can hold this in the vise while I cut that, and then we'll do a little bit of filing, and then we'll do a little bit of bonding with the glue. So there we go. There's our cut lines. Oh, look at that. All right, so I got to do just a little bit of, well, see how this overlaps? It overlaps, so it's a little bit high right there. And this guy can come out just a little bit. So I'll use a porting tool or something like that. Everything else looks just fine. So we'll glue that in. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'll tell you. I'm going to set this up on the mill. I'm going to center on this hole, lock the table. Then I'm going to glue this in. Then I'll drill this hole, because otherwise, how do I know where this hole goes? So that's my plan. It sounds pretty good. There's no noise. Okay. So I glue it on now, and then while it's in position, I drill the hole. And then these other two holes, I'll do that later. And that should be enough. Maybe. I might need more, but I don't know. It sets up in about 5 minutes, and then after 4 hours, it's fully hardened. I put some lines in there so I know if I'm on track. That looks good. Okay. I think it's done. All right, so I'm going to drill the hole now, and then we're done. Well, I hope you liked that little video. I had some fun. Mitch and I like coffees. If you buy us coffees, much appreciated. Please subscribe. And you take care. We'll see you next time.